Hopefulness 2.0 day 9. This is sourdough starter. I haven't fed it for a couple days since I started with the sourdough bread. I'll show you that in just a second. That needs to be fed, and then it needs to go in the fridge. This is more peanut butter, banana, bread, goodness, getting ready. I have everything labeled properly in the recipe that I have. So, sourdough didn't come out great as that image, I'm sure, previously on Hopefulness 2.0. There's the crumb. Not the best. It's a little dense. So my guess is that when... So I was watching a few more videos about the process, and I thought that I had followed a thing, and I didn't really follow the thing the way that I thought I did, and so the next time that I go into making some sourdough, which will probably be within the next week, it would be better if I got some better flour, for one. Get some bread flour, maybe get some whole wheat flour, some rye flour, possibly. Because those two things, I need to turn on the oven. Get that preheating. Those two things will help, for one. They also have sort of, their own yeasty germ and stuff like that, and so it'll make things taste different and ideally better, but I could just do the same thing what I did this time, but I'm also getting to the point where I'm kind of running out of flour. And a $5 bag of flour isn't, a huge financial loss or anything, but it is what it is. And I put in all of the ingredients this time for this bread, for the banana bread. Had the bananas that I had mashed up yesterday, put them in there into this glass container. And in doing so, seems to have, like when I took it out and I opened it, I was like, oh, that smells like sweet, sweet bananas. The only problem is that this is like super cold, and the olive oil is not, or the coconut oil isn't going to be exactly fluid. And this container is also not exactly the best size for mixing all these things together, but it's whatever. I'll just deal with it. I'll mix them up the best I can, and then go from there. So, yesterday and the day before was a learning experience. I got to, the bread doesn't taste bad. That's the good thing. It doesn't taste great. It's not like it's not completely bland or anything. But I think that, I kind of did sort of screw up that one main step in the beginning with creating the levain, which is your leavening. Instead of using like baking soda, baking powder, or yeast, you're using the natural yeast that have been in your starter for however long. And, there's a feeding that you do beforehand. And also, Josh Weissman, he gave some pretty good advice, I would say, to make it easier instead of doing what I was doing this whole time, which is like, okay, one with levain, you put it in your oven, right? And turn the light on and close it. And that should hopefully create a nice, mild but warm temperature setting. And so I could put it in, let's say, this. I could put in however much starter I've got to start with, and then, because that's why it's called starter, because you start with it, and then the extra flour and water that you put in there and mix them all up, and then stick it in the oven to do its thing. But you're not baking it or anything. You're not putting it at high heat or anything like that. Instead, you're putting it in a low sort of fermentation station. He's got his own that he showcases in his videos. peanut butter out of the inside of my whisk so that I can incorporate it with the rest of the stuff. That's what happens when you're, limited on your equipment. If I had 2 giant mixing bowls, this would be no problem. I just don't have 2 giant mixing bowls. And the other large bowl that I have, the other large glass bowl, I've got one with pickles in it, and then I got the other one I think with, I think that's the one that has the extra starter deposited. No? That's one. Where is it at? Is it in here? Nope. Ah, it's up there. Okay, well. Mystery solved. Oh well. Good to know. Alright, that has been fully mixed, incorporated and all. So now I just have to get you out of there. I mean, I know I'm about to be mixing it all in together with the other stuff, and I'm going to be continuing to use that whisk as well, but nevertheless. Alright. And then kind of make a well in here. The thing is that there's more liquid than there is dry in this recipe. Which is fascinating. It's an interesting piece of trivia too. What I have to do to help make sure. So, all I did with this was just scrape some peanut butter into jars and stuff. Let's get as much of the goodness out. So looking over at the actual loaf pan itself, looking at the glob of coconut oil that I put in it, so that I can see what the temp looks like on the top, on the surface, so that hopefully it doesn't, like get nasty or anything. Nasty isn't like too hot. This coconut oil in here is a little on the clumpier side. I should have maybe microwaved it a little bit before I put it in here, but it's whatever. It'll be fine. I can homogenize it. Quite a bit of unincorporated flour, but that's okay. Just gotta take my time. Oven is ready. So this is probably, yep, that's hot. Forget that it has that little vent that comes out the top. It's just like straight up direct heat. It's crazy. I need to, well, do that in a minute. I got all the other stuff blowing right now, so and I've got a window that's cracked. So for the time being, I'm not going to turn on the vent hood until I turn this video off. Alright, start to incorporate whatever flour I can see. Down there, so as soon enough. So just kind of get to scraping the sides of the bowl. The whisk. There we go. See, there's a lot more in it now too, because the two ingredients that I left out last time were the peanut butter, which is kind of a big component of it, and then also the sour cream, which is either sour cream or it's whole fat yogurt or it's whole fat Greek yogurt, which is whole fat Greek yogurt is like the main attraction that Claire puts in there. But she's like, you can put, whole fat yogurt, you can put sour cream in it. And I was like, all right, let's do some sour cream since we got some spare sour cream. And then yesterday I didn't crack open the new sour cream that I have, so this should actually taste better. And then I also, because I haven't really tasted much of the cinnamon, I decided to double it. I think she said, in her recipe, it's a 1/4 teaspoon of cardamom. But if you want to get this, if you're going to put cinnamon there, I think she said put in 1/2 teaspoon. So I put in a whole teaspoon this time. And I'm going to see how well that goes. So before I do anything else, I'm going to take this spoon, which I just, spatula, and I'm going to maneuver this coconut oil all over the sides of the pan. Make it nice and smooth as possible. That way I have a nice even layer of lubrication on the sides, so not only will it help make it easy to get out, and it won't stick. I mean, this is a pretty non-stick pan as it is. It will also help caramelize the sides of it too. In the corners. That's me in the corner. That's me in the oven. Loaf pan burning my ass off. That was totally by accident. I didn't think I was going to pull something off like that. That was awesome. I occasionally get stuff like that. It's great. I like it when that happens. Alright, so some parchment paper. I keep making it too wide. So hopefully, these blades, as easy as it is to cut yourself, seem to be doing a real bad job at their actual job. Okay, so it's not super wide, but it should be wide enough for the actual pan itself. Yeah, there we go. Because typically what I have done by accident, because this isn't exactly, sort of square, if you will. So it's still slightly too wide, because if you notice in here, I don't know where the camera is, but like it kind of folds over, and that gets into the mixture kind of gets into those cracks. But it's better than the last couple efforts. So there is that. So now it's time to dump. It's time to take a dump. I just dump whatever I can in here, and then scrape out the remainder when the time comes, which is coming soon. Ooh. That has essentially done its job. It's very peanut buttery. It's very, very peanut buttery. The stickiness of the peanut butter is definitely different than the last time. The first time was long enough ago that I don't remember, even though it was less than a week ago. But still, or maybe it was less than a week ago. I don't really remember. Oops, let's just make a mess. That's all. scrape what we can. Probably should have used a bigger spatula for this, since I have one, but it's sunk cost fallacy time. It's also, I don't want to have to clean yet another spatula time. Alright. Got a big glob of fucking... I don't know how well that's gonna play out. Hopefully that's not gonna be a problem. But I've got kind of like globs of coconut oil in there that are nice and solidified, so we'll see how bad that turns out. I mean, hey, maybe it's not a problem at all. I don't know. Maybe it's totally acceptable. I don't know. We shall see. Alright, and now for the final touch. Gonna do a little bit more of my little swirly swirls here. I think you should actually swirl it this time around. Thing is like, I don't want to get all of it out, because then what I do is I take my finger, I scrape off the rest of it and consume that. It's good. I mean, it's sugar, it's peanut butter, and it's coconut oil, so I mean, like, why wouldn't I want to? Duh. I'm gonna take my paring knife here. Swirl it. Alright. Oh. And there we have swirly topped peanut butter banana bread. It's now going to go in the oven for 65 minutes. One hour, 5 minutes. Boom. Perfect little timer. Great little kitchen timer. Now, I'm going to dump out half of this. Let's get rid of whatever this crap is at the top. Basically just dried out starter. There we go. Wipe that down. And then bring back a few things. A little flour. Bring in some water. Oops, wrong one. 113 grams each. Speaking of water, feed myself some water. You know, ever since I took my anatomy and physiology class, I was like, damn, I need to drink more water. Because water is literally necessary for so many of your body functions. And not just like the big ones like peeing, for instance, but like on the microscopic scale, it's absolutely necessary how much water, I mean, it's absurd how much water you need, that your body needs. It's kind of crazy, in fact. Now, granted, yeah, I still fuck around and I don't consume as much water as I should. But I don't do a lot of things that I should. I'm trying to be better at it, but it's difficult, because that's life. Life sure as fuck ain't easy, that's for sure. And I just dumped a good chunk onto the fucking scale again, like usual. Oh well. And we'll dump the water on top of it. I'm already less than half, I think, of what I originally had. Big old clump of fucking flour. I just cleaned it off too. It's sad. I just cleaned off the scale. And now it's dirty again. Oh well. Oh god, that was good. And apparently you do want filtered water for your starter as well. So it's good that I've been doing that. Scrapey. That's why I use the knife, so that I can actually kind of get in here and scrape as needed. Trying to get whatever unincorporated flour there is. Also, I'm gonna have to do a double up for the sourdough because the whole process was a bit frustrating with the amount of dough that I had. And while I was trying to do it specifically just for the one, I'll use you since you have flour on you. So this was like, well, this is my first attempt. I don't want to, go overboard. It would have been better to have more than one, even though it didn't turn out right. Just for the whole process of just everything being done. Because all the flour that you're using and everything for, flouring the surfaces of this, that, and the other, it's smarter and more conservative, if you will, because you're going to end up using less overall flour. Because you're decreasing your surface area with more volume. And so by decreasing your surface area, you might be thinking it's bigger, but if you compare it to two of the smaller sizes, they individually added up have more overall surface area. And so you're going to end up using more flour, and you're going to end up spending more time doing all this stuff. So if you extrapolate over time, if I was going to do just the one loaf every single time, that's going to end up actually creating more time and more waste. So it's smarter to do it in the double batches. So I'm going to do that the next time. Storing and all that's going to be interesting, but it's whatever. I'll figure it out. And speaking of sourdough, I haven't really done anything to showcase the nature of it. God, that stuff's good. I mean, it's peanut butter, which already has a pretty decent amount of sugar in it anyway, with a touch of coconut oil and some more sugar. So this isn't nearly as hard as it was yesterday. Yesterday it was like a brick. But there's the crumb. It looks like it's both underdone and underrisen. It doesn't taste bad, but it does need improvements. And so that's what I'm going to work on next time. So I've been watching more of the videos. I'm going to take on a couple of extra steps that I hadn't really thought of, or I just didn't have the information on, and go from there. I mean, I've eaten already half of the damn thing, so it's obviously not bad. You know, one could say, well, maybe that's the sunk cost fallacy. I don't know, maybe. But if it were bad, I wouldn't eat it. Because that's me. I don't eat bad things. I've had bad food. I've made bad food. I ain't eating bad food. God, it's so good. All right. And mostly, the dirty stuff is utensils. Sure, I got a couple of things that need to be handled, but it's whatever. And now, I'm going to get rid of the paper towel, since I never really needed it in the first place. I'm going to put this bad boy in the fridge. Let it sit there. God damn it. These things are square, and I still managed to screw up the fold because they're slightly, because of the way that, you know, they've been cleaned and everything, and dried and blah blah blah. We need to at least wipe down the top and the edge. I should just transfer it into another container, but I don't really have one that I can think of that's appropriate. I don't have like a deli container or a mason jar or anything. So just have to, no, actually, let's put it up at the bottom. Let's put it at the top. They're gonna fit. Yeah. Top of the back. And before I nom on my bread, oh God, that water's so good. I'll nom on an orange. And I might as well get another paper towel out because it's going to be necessary one way or another. It seems like I'm using a lot of paper towels, but they are the smaller size instead of just the giant size, so it's roughly half. So I feel like I don't use nearly as much. Now I'm using more just because of cooking and stuff, but see, I don't have the fingernails for this crap. Damn it. Whatever, I'll use you. I've got the ingredients for now to make pâte à choux, and I'm considering making it. I've been considering for a while. The only thing is that it's not exactly just a thing that you consume on its own. I mean, you can. It's not problematic to do so. Once it's cooked, it's cooked. It's that it's more or less designed to incorporate with other stuff, you know, various pastry creams and the like. Pastry creams are going to be a little bit different. So, I don't know. We'll see. But the pot's clean. It's ready to go. Just today I'm not really feeling the whole energy to cook too much. I spent the last 2 days doing a lot. I've got a bunch of chicken thighs that are now cold, sitting in the fridge, ready to just be eaten as is, which will happen definitely at least once or twice in the coming days. And to otherwise be chopped up and incorporated into the marinara sauce. So we'll see. You know, sad thing is, I just got to thinking about it. Before my stepdad died, he started branching into like making candy and stuff. And it got me thinking about, a lot of the overlaps between he and I. And there was a lot of overlap between our interests, what we liked, what we wanted to do, etc. And it's just that he was so bad at being a decent human that we barely ever got a chance to really bond. And it's funny because he started when he was 40, just like I'm kind of starting now that I'm 40. And he died when he was 40. Now, he died in a motorcycle accident with a helmet that was old as fuck, that should never have been worn. And I can't, look back and on him fondly, really, because there wasn't much to be fond of, to be honest. I'm sure if my sister ever heard me say that, she'd probably think I was an asshole. But, she had a different life with him involved. He was her biological father. He was not my biological father. He was my stepdad. As far as I understood, she was wanted, I wasn't. And so her experience would be totally different. She was still mistreated, mostly by my mother. But she was also effectively the golden child in a narcissistic family. And I don't have any resentment towards her. I did when I was a kid. But it's hard to bridge that gap still, because that old resentment still wants to creep back in. And again, it's not her fault. And so the mature thing for me to do, at least while maintaining the relationship that we do have, is kind of keep it somewhat distant still. Which I'm pretty sure is not the best route. But if I outlive him, I don't know. Maybe I'll want to gloat. Maybe I'll feel sad. Who knows? Maybe it'll be both. But it's sad in and of itself, because there was a lot of like that we had that we could have bonded over, but we didn't. Because he had whatever issues he had, and he couldn't overcome them to try to bond with a person that he even wanted. I mean, they wanted me to take his last name. I didn't want it. And I'm sure that was not only a blow to his ego, but to their relationship and to the entirety of our relationship throughout the family. And that probably built even more resentment from him towards me, which is why I ended up in the fucking Christmas tree less than a month before he died. Because we got into a fight. I don't remember about what. Who knows? I said I was going to eat this off camera, but then I started talking about stuff. Speaking of, let's see. Still rolling, 34 minutes, 35. Not a bad time. don't know what my takeaway is from all this. I've never really been close with anybody. I mean, even when I've been in relationships, they haven't really been that close. I don't know where my life will go. I don't even know how much longer my life will be. I know I'm not the same person, which I'm probably sure, somewhere in my brain was thinking, well, we're so similar that I'll probably end up dead just like him at roughly the same time. I don't know. I mean, life doesn't work like that. Existence doesn't work like that. It's just coincidence when it seems to happen. There was no intertwined fates or anything of that nature. And often things of that nature, when they do happen, are more self-fulfilling prophecies because they think about it. It's more of this psychosomatic thing where you think yourself into that situation instead of living your own life. Because as much as a good person as I'm not, I still try to improve upon it. I try when I'm around younger people, when they have a problem that I have information on, especially if it's not a relationship, but if it's in relation to things that I've failed at, succeeded at, or at the very least, through said failure, I said, well, try the opposite. What's the worst that could happen? Maybe you'll end up better off. And through my failure, and through my obvious public failure, because if I just hide it, nobody knows. But if I let people know, and not to, seek sympathy or, fish for compliments or anything of that nature, but let people know the reality of what could happen if you do these things, or if you don't do these things, or if you do these things and don't do these things. I've met plenty of young people who were in great physical shape and they were lazy as fuck and they didn't want to go work out. I was like, dude, please listen to me. Look at me. I looked like you when I was younger. And you could say, and I'll even preempt them, like, we're not the same people. No, we're not. But humans are really similar in the way that they function. And one injury could make it to where you can't do the things that are the basic maintenance. You don't have to go bust your ass to try to be, Mr. Olympia. You're not going to do that. You need steroids and a life of building muscle. You can't accidentally write a novel just because you write every day. You have to then stop writing about other things and then focus on the novel and focus on the story and focus on the characters and the relationships with the characters and the actions that they take and the objectives that they have and so on and so on and so on and so on. You have to focus on the novel. Yes, you go out and you look at other pieces, but you're bringing them all into the novel. And the same thing goes with working out. And it becomes, about how you eat and what you eat and when you eat and so many other factors. And I had a conversation like that. That's the reason why I brought it up. And while I don't think I fully convinced him, I think I gave him enough information to make that assessment and to learn. And so when things start happening later on, and I mean, it's been years since then, I haven't talked to him since, but he was way more willing to listen, especially because a piece of advice that I had told him earlier panned out. I told him when it came to going out on a date, I was like, look, the stereotype is dinner and movie. But what do you do during a dinner and what do you do to a movie? And how the fuck do you learn about another person during either one of those things? When your mouth is not allowed to do the thing that you need to do in either one of them. You know, if you're eating, you can't talk. Yeah, people talk at dinner all the fucking time. That's not the point. That's old school shit. You don't have to follow it. You don't have to. It's not necessary. Instead, especially for a first date, neither one of those situations really permits for someone to leave when they want to. It's always got to be, hey, this person called an emergency, blah, blah, blah. Waiter, I need to check. And then you got to sit there for however fucking long. And one of you knows exactly the situation that's going on. And the other one probably does. Instead, make a non-committal date. Fucking coffee. Why is coffee non-committal? You can get up and fucking leave whenever you want. You already have the meal that you were gonna have. You also know that with coffee, there's nothing committal to it. You know, you don't have a $30, $40, $50, $60, $80 meal coming your way that you want to eat because you're fucking hungry. You're going in knowing that you're getting coffee. You're going in knowing that coffee is going to be your energizer. It doesn't have to be coffee. It could be a beer. It doesn't matter. And, you know, I started breaking it down with him. I started having conversations. He started, putting, input, and I would talk to him about it. And he was like, you know what? I'm going to take her out to the Galleria. I think it was in Glendale. I was like, a mall. That works. There's all kinds of shit in the fucking mall. You don't have to go to any one store for any lengthy period of time. If a person wants to go to a certain store for a lengthy period of time, you have a better understanding of who they are based on the kind of stuff that they like. And then he comes back to me after the date and he's like, dude, it was such a great fucking idea. I can't believe we did that. It was so good. I'm like, awesome. And the reason I brought all that up is because my dad never did any of that stuff. His only advice when it came to women was, look, don't touch. That's it. In fact, I think that'll be the title of this video. Just for the sake of irony. That was it. That was the only piece of advice I got. The man made fun of me when I tried to learn how to fucking shave. So I'm not trying to be that guy. And while there are some behavioral overlaps, a lot of it because of just my own issues, I'm at least aware of them. And I'm trying to overcome them. I'm not doing a great job. Hell, I even forgot to take my meds today. Well, I can remember that. Hell, I'll take them now. I'm pretty sure he wouldn't have taken any kind of medication. I've been on and off medication since I was 10. He was in so many ways the definition of toxic masculinity. And I was growing up in that world, learning how to deal with it, learning how to be it, and exhibiting it. But I've been around other people. I've been around other cultures. I've seen the ups and downs of others. And while it is very difficult for me to be the person that I needed in my life to myself, I'm at least trying to be the person that I needed for others. Christ, actually, we're starting to get there. relatively pale browning. So I've got the starter in the fridge, and that's going to sit for about a week. I'll feed it either the day or the night, a day or two before I decide to do it again. And I'll try it again, and I'll do a double. I'll do the oven, sort of the low oven trick, and see how well that works. Who knows? But today is, oh, it's like, where the fuck is my timer? I have 36 minutes left. It's starting to smell good. And that's really all I'm going to do for cooking today. Today is a day of not burning the house down, if you will. I haven't burned the house down, of course, but you know what I mean. And I can't really think of anything else, so have fun.